I've tried everything. I've tried to convince my wife by saying to her that it was not good for the kids. I've tried reaching out to the Japanese authorities, the police, prosecutors and courts, but they refuse that I have any contact with my children. Right now, I don't even know if they're alive.
And for more on this story, let's cross live now to Brussels, where our correspondent Shona Murray has been following this story. We know Fichot has had to end his protest to prepare for a surgery. But what can you tell us about what these EU diplomats in Japan promised to do to help him?
Yes, that's right, Annalise. He's preparing for a surgery after fainting while on his protest in 30-plus degree heat. Now, the case of Vincent Fichot is not unfamiliar to these diplomats who said they'd support him. It's not unfamiliar to people here in Brussels or to French President Emmanuel Macron, because last year Emmanuel Macron spoke to the former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and pushed for Vincent Fichot's case to be looked at. Last year, he also addressed alongside an Italian father the European Parliament, who then voted in favour of a non-binding resolution calling on Japan to recognise the right to parents to have custody of their children, to access their children, and also to recognise their obligations under international law, the rights of the child, the right to a child to have contact with their parents, and the right not for children not to be abducted. So essentially, many of these diplomats from Italy, from Spain, from Germany, and France are going to lobby the Japanese government, because it's a growing number of fathers from Europe who have settled in Japan, who have Japanese wives, who have seen after divorce they haven't been able to access their children. The Japanese Foreign Ministry has said, of course, it's an internal matter. I think that's where the difficulties lie, when you have European diplomats and so on speaking to the Japanese government about these issues. It does look like interference, but I think this is a really interesting time to do it during the Olympics, when there is a high number of European diplomats in one space, and they hope to be able to get the Japanese to move on this issue. And what the problem is that in Japan they don't recognise the right to joint custody after divorce, and they're trying to change that legislation, or at least in these circumstances for the likes of Vincent Fichot and others to get access to their children finally, because as one diplomat pointed out, those children are getting older and older and time is of the essence. Annalise?